Hope you're doing well. Hello, hello. Welcome to Live at 5. We are here. We are again. I'm back at 30,000 feet. This particular today's photo, I'll start with that, was taken by one of my family members out the window of a plane wherever they were flying. This is a sunset. Those are clouds here, and this is actually a sunset over here. It's just kind of nice, calming effect. So therefore, we called the every Live at 5 episode gets a tagline. Today's tag is remain calm and watch on. Just keep watching. Just stay with Live. We've been 150, 155. I don't know. We're 154 maybe, something like that. When's the next milestone? Maybe 180. We'll be there soon. But you got to keep watching. Check us out on Facebook Live. Check us out on YouTube, the Jewish Experiences YouTube channel. And if you do, subscribe, please, because we need to get to a certain number of subscribers so that we can really, spread our wings and fly. And if you really want to be a Zoomer, so join us on Zoom at 694-348-057 right here live at 5 every day, Monday to Thursday. I'm your host, Raphael Leban. And I want to thank my co-host, actually. There's sort of a behind-the-scenes co-host. Nobody knows this, but I have the assistance of a little professional studio crew. I want to thank my co-host Nechama for always being able to watch my back when I'm otherwise deep in thinking about the Torah or probably just goofing off, telling a joke, not paying attention. But either way, I do appreciate you, and thanks for co-hosting. While we're thanking, I also just wanted to mention a sponsor of the week. We received help for the last few years from one of the fantastic and philanthropic foundations that we have in Colorado, Jewish Colorado foundations. We have a bunch. And I want to thank today the Elaine and Melvin Wolf Foundation. Particularly, I want to thank Kelly Hodges, who is a granddaughter who takes care of the foundation's philanthropy these days. And she's been great. And we appreciate their support and the support of all of our tremendous sponsors. Wanted to also make the announcement. Today is the last day of the show of the week because we're Monday through Thursday. But for those of you who just can't go too many days without something along those lines, we do have a new Friday option. This will be, I think, the fourth week in a row, God willing, fourth week of our Friday afternoon Zing and Zoom into Shabbos. So that comes about on. It's going to be tomorrow, 4:30. We'll make it 4:30. Tomorrow, 4:30 is getting later. The sun's setting later, and we're getting later. So tomorrow, 4:30, you could jump on. We can't do it live at 5 on a Friday because the sun's busy setting, and it's getting and it's Shabbos. Shabbos is coming, so we got to get ready. There's actually a mitzvah to take in. To prepare, to start, to launch, to jump into Shabbos a little earlier, even earlier than the sun. So we have to wrap up online, get the candles lit, and get into Shabbos a little bit earlier. The sun is setting about 5 something, a couple minutes after 5. So therefore, 4:30 we'll have a short show, and that'll give us time. The link for the show is not the same as today. You may have been wondering. I don't know why I was thinking that, but I will share it with you. It is, we have it, and let's see if I memorize it. It is 722-632-1332. Okay, we'll put that in the chat. 722-632-1332. That's our Zoom link for tomorrow, and you'll please join us for. And that is actually the general link for everything the Jewish Experience does. That's not Live at 5. Live at 5 has its own link. Don't ask me to repeat it. And you can look it up. If you want to look it up, actually, you can go to the Jewish Experience's website. It's about to be updated, but it's still great. And you can go to theje.com. We're the only je.com. Actually, the jewishexperience.com will get you there too. But I want to say, just so I can save your fingers from a little too much typing, you could just put in theje.com, and there you can find out all the other things that are going on, like my colleagues Rabbi Wolf and Sarah Wolf. They have a show also called Live from the Bunker. Their house is a bunker. I'm just live, but they're hunkered down in the bunker, and you can find that as well. That's for young people, not for me. But if you're my age, then you should be here. I want to wish a refuah shlema, a speedy recovery, to a couple of folks. I was asked to share that we should pray for on behalf of Matana Bat Sarchana. That's one. She should be well, and also there are a couple of surgeries this week amongst our circle. Jen Grinspoon had an eye surgery today, and we wish her a speedy recovery. And Rob Klugman is getting a shoulder surgery tomorrow, and we wish him a speedy recovery as well. I got the greatest story I heard yesterday that I want to share with you. A really sweet, beautiful story. Now, I got to give you a couple of names to make this story really meaningful. The first one you may know is this story is about the Chafetz Chaim. Now, that's actually the name of a book, but frequently in Jewish circles we refer to great scholars by whatever book they published. And so the rabbi's name actually was Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan, Israel Meir Kagan, and he was one of the greatest, most well-renowned leading voices in Europe in the 20th century and the 19th century. From the 19th into the 20th. So he, in fact, wrote the book, literally wrote the book on how to not speak Lashon Hara. That book is called the Chafetz Chaim. And the word Chafetz Chaim means he who wants life. You want eternal life, you want to live, you got to watch what you say. That was his book, that was his title. It's based on a beautiful verse in Psalms. Anyway, so this story is about him. But I heard it from Rabbi Leibish Becker. Now, Rabbi Becker actually heard this story from Rabbi Michal Twersky. Rabbi Michal Twersky is a great rabbi in Milwaukee, actually. A leading. Did you know there was a great rabbi in Milwaukee? But there's more than one, and one of them, his name is Rabbi Michal Twersky. He happens to be the uncle of a great rabbi that we had in Denver, Rabbi Mati Twersky. Okay. Now, so this Rabbi Michal Twersky has a twin, and the twin brother's name is Aaron. And this story is about them when they were kids. And the way I heard it from Rabbi Becker, that he heard it from Rabbi Michal, and Rabbi Michal said about himself that when he was a rather impudent kid, there was a great rabbi from Europe who was visiting, and he asked a little bit of a chutzpahdik question, a little bit. Not so bad. The great rabbi that was visiting from Europe was known as the Panovitcher Rav. Panovitch is a town, and there's actually a yeshiva of that name, and there was a Rav Kahaneman, it was his name. So he was visiting. He was coming to America to collect money for this yeshiva. This yeshiva, today, his yeshiva is one of the greatest, most renowned yeshivas in Israel. And when he was forming it, he was creating it in the aftermath of World War II. He would come to America and he would raise money. And so the young Rav Michal and his twin brother were with him, and they knew that this rabbi, the Panovitcher Rav, had been himself a student of the great Chafetz Chaim in Europe. So they asked him tell us a story about the Chafetz Chaim. He said, I'm going to tell you the following story. He said, on my travels, I go around to many Jewish communities. I was once in a small Jewish community in Pennsylvania. It wasn't a very big community, never even heard of the town necessarily. And, there wasn't a lot of rich Jewish life, but there was one guy there. This guy, he was on fire. He was so passionate. We say in Yiddish, he was verbrennt. He was like on fire with a burning, energetic, inspired, passionate Judaism. And Rav Kahneman said, and I asked him, I couldn't help myself. I had to ask him, how are you so, in this little town with so little Jewish life, how are you so passionate about your Judaism? So this Jew said, let me tell you a story. I'll tell you where that comes from. Happened to be that as a boy, I grew up in Europe, and my father sent me to the yeshiva in Radin that the Chafetz Chaim was the Rosh Yeshiva there. I was supposed to go in Elul, which is like right before Rosh Hashanah, and I got sick, and I couldn't go. But after a few weeks, I was better, and when later on in the sort of the semester, I was able to go. My father took me. We went together. We showed up at the yeshiva and came to the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim saw me, and he said, "Oh no, I forgot you were coming. I don't have any more rooms in the yeshiva for you. I don't have any place in the dorm to put you. What are we going to do?" So the Chafetz Chaim said, let me think. He said, I know. I have here in my office, I have a bench. And so you can sleep here on the bench. Now you should know that the poverty that they dealt with, the self-sacrifice that was necessary to go to a yeshiva in Europe was significant, and there was not a lot of, there wasn't not a lot of frills there, and it was not uncommon for people to sleep on benches in synagogues, and so that was an acceptable place. You'll sleep in the bench in my office. So the boy was thinking, oh my gosh, can you believe that? I'm going to sleep in the office of the Chafetz Chaim. So the first night he was there, and he was laying down, and it wasn't particularly comfortable, and he was pretty nervous, and he could barely sleep. And he's trying to sleep, and suddenly the door opens, and the Chafetz Chaim comes into his office. So he pretends to be asleep, and he's listening, and the Chafetz Chaim walks in, and he's actually talking to himself out loud, and he says, "Oh no, it's so cold in here. I've got to get him a blanket, but we're out of blankets. I don't have a blanket to give him. What am I going to do? Let me think." And the Chafetz Chaim says, "I know what I'll do. I'll give him my coat." And he took off his own coat and he laid it over me, said this guy. I was there on the bench pretending to be asleep, and the Chafetz Chaim put his coat over me to be warm. And from that day on, I can always feel the warmth of the coat, the loving care and consideration the Chafetz Chaim had for me to put his coat on me to keep me warm. I will always be warm for the rest of my life. I will be warmed with the heat of the Chafetz Chaim's love and his coat. And you want to know why I'm so passionate? That's why I'm still aflame. Oh, I heard this story. Is that an unbelievable story? I heard this last night. I had to share it with you. That's really what we're talking about. You want to talk about, warmth, love. Here's the Chafetz Chaim. He wrote the book on how to guard your tongue from speaking in a denigrating way, maligning another person. How could you, if you're filled with love for the rest of the Jewish people, for love for other human beings? How could you speak bad of them? And what an unbelievable story. They had nothing, but what they had, they gave. And the Chafetz Chaim, unbelievable. So that was her, to just to remind you. Rabbi Becker told me from Rabbi Twersky, who heard from the Rabbi Kahaneman, who heard from this Jew the story about him when he was a boy with the Chafetz Chaim, just so you get all that straight. And you can memorize it and you can share it yourselves. A beautiful and unbelievable story. Now that leads me to, I thought that while we mentioned this Chafetz Chaim story, today I thought we would have a Clean Speech Colorado update, because there's a lot of great stuff going on, and I'm so excited about it. I can't help but share it. I've spent a lot of time lately with my Clean Speech Colorado team here, which is growing, thank God, and we are working closely with 4 communities around North America that they are working on their own campaigns. Clean Speech Illinois is in motion. Clean Speech Minnesota, Clean Speech Ottawa, Clean Speech Baltimore, all of these things. We're going to have we have actually 5 campaigns, because there's going to be 2 in Illinois. And we're developing the college-specific program, and we've got amazing stuff. It was really beautiful. I just want to share one beautiful thing, because the first of my Jewish professional colleagues in Colorado that I went to when I had this idea back in 2018, okay? I went to Scott Leban of the ADL, and he's a guy I've known for a long time. I know his family. And I came to Scott and I said, "Scott, I got this idea. We've got to do something. The world is falling apart. We're splitting families, friendships, communities. We're splitting in pieces. And we've got to bring the community back together with a little bit of attention, Jewish mindful speech." And he thought about it, and he said, "You know what? You're right. I'm going to do it with you. We're in. We're in." The ADL was the first partner we had. And then we got the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation from New York immediately afterwards, and on and on and on, and others. And it's been terrific. Now, when my partner in Chicago went to the ADL in Chicago, they called Scott Leban, the ADL director there, called our ADL director. And he said, "What is this clean speech stuff, and do I want in?" And Scott said, "It's great. Do it." And sure enough, they're in. The first partner that they had in Illinois, ADL. Why? Because, again, I'm going to give some credit. I'm going to give him a shout out. This is my daily kvel. We'll put it down as the daily kvel segment. I'm kvelling for the positivity of Scott Leban. He did a great job, and he's in. And you know what? He's making so many great things happen. So I really appreciate that. Also, just wanted to mention, which is also really, really lovely news, that one of the senior rabbinic voices in America who lives in Chicago, Rabbi Shmuel First, also heard about the campaign, and he said, "That's great, and you could use my name and get everybody involved." And he gave his stamp of approval, which is also, again, very beautiful. We love to have the approbation of people whose voices and who they have a swing. They have the the recognition of large masses of communities of the Jewish people, and when they say, "Oh, so and so's in," I'm into. And then these are, I don't. I'm so delighted to get Rabbi First's approbation, and that we can make this thing happen. Very cool. And just lastly, as my clean speech update for the day, we're working on volume 3. You should know, and because we've done volumes 1 and 2. Volume 1 was about Lashon Hara. Volume 2 was about Onas Dvarim. And volume 3 is going to be about Machlokes, and it's going to be called Osei Shalom. It's going to be about how we can overcome. The Machlokes means like argument, infighting, breakdown in relationships. We're going to overcome that, and we're going to put peace on the table, and it's going to be called Osei Shalom. What do you think? Any comments are welcome. Yeah, we could sing it. Osei Shalom Bimrumav. Oh, yes. Well, how would you like to sing it? Osei Shalom Bimrumav. However you like to sing it, but it's a great title and it's a great theme, and so we're hard in development. And if you have, by the way, if you have a great story for me, I'm open to stories. I love stories. Stories are so important. If you have a great story for me about folks that were struggling to get along and they restored peace, or even a powerful story the opposite, where they couldn't restore peace. Any peaceful stories about bringing shalom to people in their lives and restoring broken relationships. If you have anything about that, send it in, and we'll probably use it in our volume 3 curriculum, and you will hereby change the world. Okay, now I want to go next in our show, and the next segment is I want to go back to what we said yesterday, which we put out there a Parsha riddle, which I don't know if I got responses. I have to look at them. I don't actually look. I don't think I got any, but that I'm aware of. This is not a riddle that you could just Google. That's my goal, is to give you ungoogleable riddles. No Googling. I don't want an easy riddle, which you can just look up. But the interesting thing about this week's Parsha, which is called Parsha's Bo, is that really it should have been called Parsha's Lech. The word bo means come, and the word lech means go. And so the parsha starts, and God says to Moshe, Hashem says, go to Pharaoh and tell him to let the Jewish people go, right? So you wouldn't say come to Pharaoh, you'd say go to Pharaoh, right? God is sending Moshe to Pharaoh. Go to Pharaoh, right? Go talk to him. You wouldn't say come talk to him. Why is the parsha called come? Should have been called go. So that was a riddle. So there are many beautiful answers that could be given. I'm just going to share one thought with you, which is this. You know what the difference between come and go is? If I'm telling you to go somewhere, then like go run this errand for me, go do this thing for me in my stead, and I'm not going with you, I would say go do it. But if I'm going along with you and I want you to just join me, I would say come. Come to Pharaoh would make sense if you're going with me. And so perhaps what the verse is implying is that God's not sending Moshe alone to Pharaoh. He's saying, let's go to Pharaoh. Come to Pharaoh means as if it says, come with me to Pharaoh. We're going to go do this. And that's certainly the idea, the attitude that everyone ought to take about pretty much anything that we try to accomplish in life. It's not me. I'm not doing this. I'm not the one who's accomplishing and doing it. I'm just going along with what God is, where he travels and where he's going. And as we said a few weeks ago, if we try to invoke the guidance of one of the Mishnahs in Pirkei Avos and the little teachings in the ethics of our fathers, it says that try to make your will his will, meaning try to figure out what it is that God would want you to do in the world and do that. And then you're not going on your own, then you're going together. Then it's come, not go. Beautiful idea, I think. Maybe that's an answer to the Parsha riddle. I'm open to other answers, but didn't want you to have to go into Shabbos, gritting your teeth and trying to figure out why the Parsha is called that. So there's one answer that I want to share. Okay. Also, I just thought I would share. I like to share sometimes some nice readers' feedback. I got there was a lovely piece of readers' feedback. Watchers, readers, viewers. I don't know. Zoomers. We had a nice piece of feedback yesterday from somebody who likes Live at 5, and he said, this has become my favorite hour of the day. beautiful. I was so, we were honored to get that. I think he feels like it's actually only 30 minutes. So he must feel like it must be so boring and long. He feels like it's an hour. That's what I'm thinking. But I think he meant, he likes it, and we're happy to have everyone to enjoy it. We take critical and constructive feedback as well. You could send that by snail mail to you send it to the White House. Also, later on today's show, I want to do one more segment, which is a Hebrew word to know. Important things. We got lots and lots and lots of Hebrew words. If God willing, all the Jewish people is going to go to Israel soon enough, and we're going to need to know all the Hebrew words. So we'll take them one at a time. Today, I want you to teach you an important Hebrew word, which you know the concept, but you don't know the word. The word that appears for the first time in the Torah in this week's Parsha is Magefa. And Magefa means a plague. As in, as we're having a pandemic. And this is amazing. This is a word which, has been, if you're already a Hebrew speaker, I'm not introducing you to this word, and you didn't hear it for the first time on this show. But if you're working on your Hebrew, so the word Magefa is the word which means plague. Now, interestingly, here's the funny thing that was really brought to my attention by one of my dear colleagues, Rabbi Ephraim Schwartz. Rabbi Ephraim Schwartz, he used to be the outreach guy in my hometown, Norfolk, Virginia. And that was awesome. Now, he's not that much older than me, so I was long gone from the time he got there. But he came into town, and then he was in Seattle, and now he's in Israel. He's a tour guide, and we've used him as our guide on several of my trips. Love him. He's the rabbi of the young Israel of Carmiel. Carmiel is a small town in Israel, way up in the north, and he's also a tour guide. And it's been a rough year for the tour guides in Israel, let me tell you, because their business just came to a screeching halt. They got nothing going on professionally. And my heart goes out to all of them, and we need to find ways to support them. And soon, God willing, we're all going to pick up and go to Israel and utilize their services once again and get a trip around Israel with their guidance. So I get every week the most hysterical weekly Torah Parsha email from Rabbi Ephraim Schwartz. He is a laugh riot. He's an absolute scream. And if you like and you want me to forward it to you and you get on his list, it's the funniest Parsha email out there by far, hands down, for sure. And let me know, chat or email or text me, or let me know if you'd like it. I will be happy to send you one. You can sign up. It's a great read. Anyway, so he pointed out brilliantly. He pointed out that the word Magefa which is used for the first time in the Torah here, is used interestingly to talk about the plague of frogs, and the plague of frogs, and the plague of the death of the firstborn, and also the plague of hail. And of course, we would use the word when we're talking about the pandemic. Now, what do these things have in common? I mean, if the word Magefa means like a plague, we would think about that as a medical thing. So maybe the plague of the firstborn, if you want to think of that as medical, or maybe the pandemic. But what would you consider that would be the appropriate term for frogs, for hail, a plague? Is it a plague in a sense when you use the word Magefa? So you could definitely, when we think of the 10 plagues. So yeah, we're used to calling the plague of frogs, the plague of hail plagues, but really, if I would think that that's the right word for the COVID-19, for the novel coronavirus of 2019, well, I wouldn't necessarily think of it as for the appropriate word also for frogs and for hail, which are not medical. So he pointed out very interestingly, if you think about it for a little bit, that what you see as a common denominator between those three plagues where the word Magefa is used, frogs, hail, and the death of the firstborn, is that the Torah emphasizes the sound of it. What was the problem with frogs? Nobody was hurt by frogs. There was no injury, no death. There was no deaths in the plague of frogs. Nobody died by frogs. They were just very loud. They croaked. They drove everybody insane from the croaking. Croaking. The whole country was overrun with croaking frogs, and it was loud. The plague of hail. It's interesting, hail came down on their heads, but it's what Pharaoh said he couldn't take. Moshe, get rid of the kolos, the thunder of the plague. They couldn't deal with the sound. And even when it comes to the death of the firstborn, the Torah emphasizes that what was going on was the tremendous cry that emerged when the whole of Egypt was loud with the crying out from this plague. It was loud as volume. It seems that really what might be described as the essence of a plague is this thunderous crash of noise, of sound. Being overwhelmed by sound is part of a megafa. Suggested Rabbi Schwartz, what's the megafa aspect of the pandemic of COVID-19? Maybe it's the sound of that constant barrage of news reports and opinions and attitudes and jibes. It's like pulling us back and forth. Is it over? Isn't it over? I want it to be over, but is it really going to, is it, should we take the vaccine? Shouldn't we take the vaccine? Should we wear a mask? Should we wear a mask? The news reports and the latest and you could be overwhelmed from it. It's just the sound of it, the noise of it, the noise in our ears, That's perhaps what they have in common. So for that, I chose this calm background. Blue skies, sunset, calm. And you know what? We need to try to find an oasis. I can't tell you how much I recommend turning off the volume. You got to disconnect somewhat from that news. You got to find a way to feel as much as in touch as you need to feel without being drowned under a tidal wave of the sound. In the Talmud, when our sages wanted to talk about the craziness of the world, you know what they talked about? They talked about the sound of the sun. The sound of the sun makes so much noise, but you know what? You can't hear it because the world is so noisy. Can you imagine hearing the sound of the sun? It would have to be pretty quiet. You'll never hear that. Because the world is a loud, crazy place, and it just goes around and around. It's insane. It's insanity of sound, and we struggle with that sound. My friend and colleague who's written a bunch of books, actually came from yeshiva, and he started writing. He wrote a book called The Soul Diet, and in the Soul Diet, he's talking about not eating less food, but taking in less things which are bad for your soul. And he talks about going on a media fast. Just like we go on a food fast, take a day off from eating to re-cleanse your, purify and cleanse your body. So he says, take a day for your soul and go on a media fast and see if you can disconnect and just turn it all off and not absorb any media for a day. Quiet the sound. Yeah, that's right. We have Shabbos. We have that day every week, God willing. Always have a media fast. Once a week, he was talking to everybody. Even the rest of humanity should take a day off. Turn it off. If you already have one day, if you already have Shabbos, go for two. But we have to worry. We have to try to disconnect ourselves from that tumultuous sound because you know what? It's overwhelming. It's like a plague. It's a lot, and we've got to cut back. And with that way, God willing, we can restore our calm a little bit, our peace of mind. Anyway, you know what? We're getting ready. It's today's Thursday. It's the last edition of Live at 5 for this week. We're heading into Shabbos. If you want to join us for a little singing and you want to, as we said before, you want to nourish your vagal nerve. The vagal nerve is a special nerve that connects all of the nervous system. It's critical for calm and peace of mind, and it's nourished by song, amongst other things. So tomorrow you can tune in 4:30 at 722-632-1332 and on Zoom, and we will have for you a zing and zoom into Shabbos. I want to wish everyone a wonderful, a healthy, and a holy. We'll see you next week, Monday, Live at 5.